three major ways to build an empire, right? You can start a business, you can buy a business, or you can buy into a business. So equity, right?
Welcome to a special episode of the Business Growth Show. I interviewed a big guest in a live studio instead of Zoom, so make sure you listen to the whole episode as there will be heaps of golden nuggets. I'm Athin Cassiotis, your business growth expert, and I help business owners grow and scale their business to create wealth and freedom in life. Today, I have an awesome guest. Mr. Aaron Sansoni, aka Mr. Empire, has built a fortune in business by starting, building, and investing in over 130 companies to date. 80 companies are currently invested with over 145 million. And he's also an internationally acclaimed speaker, best-selling author, and nominee of Australian of the Year 2017 and Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year 2016. He's featured in over 50 publications around the world, and Aaron runs successful private equity firms with interests in media, technology, e-commerce, SaaS, education, hospitality, retail, aerospace, health, and many more. And Aaron has spoken to some of the world's exclusive venues around the world and shared the stage with business icons, including billionaire Sir Richard Branson, Hollywood A-Lister Arnold Schwarzenegger, and world leading speakers Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss, and Dr. Eric Thomas, to name a few. Having reached the lives of 250 million people, Aaron has personally trained 700,000 students in 132 countries from over 150 industries, on and offline, through his training spanning over 2 decades of mentoring. And as the #1 global authority on empire building, he's authored 2 books, including the most recent, Think Like, which has sold over 100,000 copies worldwide. And Aaron was recently named the #1 mentor in Australia in Forbes Magazine. Welcome, Aaron, and thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And congratulations on 200 episodes as well.
Thank you, mate. It's been a pleasure. It's commitment, right? It's what it's all about,
It is, yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think you're an epitome of that as well. So let's get straight into it. You're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people that don't know who you are, just do you want to tell a little bit more about your journey from the start? Because I know, you've come a long way.
I have, yeah. That bio is not where it started from. Let me tell you that. So born and bred Melbourne, and for me, grew up in a kind of lower socio-economic household. Parents divorced when I was 2, and bounced between mum's house, dad's house. Didn't really do well at school. Went to school to chase girls and play basketball, and I did that pretty well. Barely passed, and then just realized I wanted something different. I didn't want to go and have a general job. So I got into sales really early on, was really crap at it, then eventually got good at it. And then after a while, I just decided to bite the bullet, jump out and become an entrepreneur. And back then, being an entrepreneur was not sexy at all. Basically, if you said you're an entrepreneur, people just thought you didn't have a job. Now it's something everyone aspires to be. And so almost 20 years later, actually, I was talking to my wife yesterday. We're trying to work out dates. I've been in business now for probably close to 20 years now, and teaching for probably about 17, 18 years as well of that. So we've come a long way in that time, and I'm just so excited that I get to wake up every day and do what I want to do. Go out there and build companies, start companies, buy companies. So now as an investor, I start companies, I buy companies, I buy into companies. Like recently just acquired part of Melbourne United NBL team. And in a variety of things. I get to really focus on philanthropy, which is a big thing for us as well, which is focusing on different people that we want to be able to help. So recently we raised a couple $100,000 for UNICEF. I get to go around the world and show other people the things that I didn't know. And this whole empire thing, not a lot of people talk about that, right? It's business, or it's sales, or it's marketing, or it's personal development. But for me, it really is about the investment side of things, the equity side, and so I get to share that as well. So right now, my life is about doing what I teach and teaching what I do, and also the charity side, the philanthropy through our Aaron Sansoni Foundation as well.
Yeah, awesome, mate. So much amazing stuff from the start to where you've gotten today, and I love that you're giving back, at the same time, which is awesome. So let's start initially on sales, because I know that's where you started, and you're a master, basically at that. So what types of sales did you do, and I guess what are some of the key learnings that came out of that? Because I think it's the most important skill in business.
Yeah, so I got into sales probably the turn of the century, right? So back then, when you joined an organization, they taught you the stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s. The stuff that was all of the door-to-door sales, and that had its place back in those 60s, 70s, 80s. But I think then people moved from that to more of a consultative selling approach to then kind of more of a solution selling approach. And the way that people sold things had changed. What I felt when I first got into sales that we were just teaching to sell products. We weren't really understanding people and solutions. So for me, I had to start thinking about my own way I thought selling would work. And that's where I started to create my own processes of selling. And that is what I started to teach, I suppose, the teams that I used to look after when I was employed. And then that was actually the basis of what I went out there and started to teach for my education part of my career, was going and teaching what I worked out around sales. So for me, I think sales had a really dirty word, right? It's like, oh my gosh, just trying to sell someone something. But I really thought that, if you've got a product and service that can really help people, and you have an opportunity to be able to improve that person's life or business, then you have an obligation to work a way to sell that product or service. Because the idea that everyone does something that, if it's good for someone, they'll do it is wrong. That's the reason why we have so many challenges in our world where people don't always do what's good for them. So I think if you've got a great product or a great service and you learn how to be able to sell that to people and follow your own kind of, ethical framework around that, then it's a great life, it's a great career. And for me, I got good at it because actually got good at it out of necessity, because I was crap at it to begin with. I was just trying to be everyone's best friend, but I didn't make any money. So I had to work out how to actually sell and engage with people and understand what they're looking for, and then offer them a solution, but then also build long-term relationships with them too. So they would come back to me and want to buy multiple stuff from me and my companies as well. So for me, I had to master out of necessity. And I think because I wasn't great from a university or school perspective, I liked the idea of sales because I could make whatever money I wanted to based on my effort, and there wasn't a lot of jobs out there where you could do that. So for me, learning to sell was getting me out of where I was to where I wanted to be financially too.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I love that. And I did door to door for about 6 months, and I think it builds resilience. Not the most fun thing.
Yeah, I agree.
It's.
I said to my wife the other day, I said, I want my kids to go do door to door sales, right? I think that's great. I think that I did. Like the first time anyone professionally told me to fuck off was doing door to door sales. And when I say professionally, my mates have always said that to me, but I'd never met someone that I didn't know that would just be like that rude to you up front. But that was from going door to door, knocking on the door, going in, and this woman, she's got this glass on, she's staring at me across this desk, this reception desk, and she told me that to get, and she's like, I wasn't used to that, right? But I realized that that was a skill that I had to learn, because there is no business that survives without making money, without making sales.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I love that. Now, you were talking a bit there about, training and helping people initially on sales. And I know you've done it with empire building and buying businesses and all that now, which is awesome. I want to talk about the platform speaking side, because I think this is something, it's one of the most highest grossing skills, right? To be able to, sell from stage and help more people in that way, right? To go on along the journey. So for people, maybe they're listening to this, that maybe at the start of their journey, they're just starting to get into in-person events and things like that. Like, what do you think are some of the key things that people need to be doing so that people want to buy from them, to buy their programs as well? Yeah.
I think for me, I went about things completely opposite to what every speaker, coach, and person tells you to do. Firstly, I didn't go to every speaker, coach, person. That was the first thing. But for me, I never stood there and said, well, can I make lots of money from doing something like that? I think the first skill you need to have is really believe in what it is that you are doing, and really have a deep understanding of how you can help people. And if you really believe you've got a great product or a great service, and you really truly believe it can help somebody, I think then that will come across in when you're teaching people. I think secondly, I think secondly that that the idea of going out there and sharing a message to multiple people, to me that's a leverage, right? One to one or one to many. It's the same when you would have Steve Jobs standing up and releasing the new Apple thing, whether it be the iPhone or whether it be the iPod, that ability for him to stand up in front of everybody and share a product or a service, and then go and have people go to those stores the next day and go buy that. Or Elon Musk, who stands up and talks about, Cybertruck, and, gets a $99 investment to sell 250,000 Cybertrucks in 15 minutes, while he still breaks the car with a rock that's not supposed to break the car. So I think the ability, whether it be on stage to people about a product or a service, whether it be in a business, you have to have the ability to be able to influence and persuade. So for me, believing in what it is that you do is a big part of it. And I know that sounds, almost cliche to say, but I think that people have really great bullshit meter. And I think that if you really do believe in what you do, and people believe that you can help them to succeed in whatever it is that you want to talk about, I think that's going to help you a lot in this space. And so for me, that was a big thing. And I did it. I suppose because I was doing the venture capital side on the side of it, I didn't enter the space of helping people thinking it's all about making money. For me, it was really about, well, I've worked out a couple of things, and I've gone on record to say that when I very first started to teach people on stage, I hadn't mastered everything in business. I'd mastered a couple of things, like sales I was pretty good at, marketing I was pretty good at, but so many other things I wasn't great at all. So when I worked those things out, and people kept asking me to share, and people were like, oh, please, can you share with me? Then I was just getting so busy trying to share with people individually. I was like, hey, I need to find a way to share this to more people. So I found myself conducting what is called a seminar today. I didn't even know what it was. I'm standing in a room of 12 people with a flip chart trying to show them some stuff that I worked out. Then obviously that grew into, we're the biggest in Australia at what we do now around the business space. But for me, I did that because I wanted to find a way to help people on the journey that I didn't get to help. And so for me, when I talk about a product or I talk about some things that we can do to help people, I sit there sometimes in a moment going, shit, I wish that was I wish I had that opportunity. I wish I could sit in Empire Mastery, or I wish I could be part of, Empire Circle, our mastermind, or I wish I could, be a part of this, because there wasn't that many people back then who achieved success that were sharing deeply. And that's an important point, because there's lots of people who go out there and do a keynote. They'll go do a keynote, or they'll go and share a couple of things, or they'll make do an ebook or a book. But for me, having an education business with 100 team members, going very deep right across the world on creating multiple layers, so creating masterminds, creating mastermind groups, building almost 40, 50 coaches now and trainers that I've trained personally on how to be able to do what I do. We're really proud of that as a product. So for me, I came from the idea that I really wanted to deeply help people in a way that hadn't been done before. So I think, really be good at what you do, really, come from a space of really trying to help people. And then I think, I think that for me, I've always been big on trying to find things that I truly believe are going to help people to, in my space, obviously building empires, right? So multiple businesses, multiple income streams. That's my jam. So I wanted to find things that no one else is really doing that I can share with people that I genuinely believe they could go out there and get a result from. So for me, a lot of lessons along the way. I never set out to be where we are today, where we've got a very successful education brand, one of our many private equity brands that we have. But I think because I made stuff that I think people really needed, I came from a space of really giving a shit, and ultimately, people that followed what I asked them to do got exceptional results. It's like you go into a restaurant and loving the food. You go and you tell all your mates, and your mates go and and that's the same thing for us. I mean, what we teach works, and so people go, wow, you want to build a business? You've got to go to see Aaron, or you've got to go see Empire Mastery or something like that. I think maybe even you've attended that as well. So I think that for me, making something that genuinely works, making something that you really believe in, and really trying to come from that space of constantly trying to find a way to help people, that to me has probably been the thing that's helped me do what I've create what I've done and become successful in that space.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. And let's talk a bit more about empire building, Empire Mastery. I did attend. It was actually my first business event when I started my first business back in 2017. So many years ago. It was awesome. Yeah. One of my friends actually, invested at an event that he went, and I was his guest. Oh, great. Which was great. And but I went in the mentality that I, like you, wrote every note, didn't go to any breaks unless there was a break, and I implemented and got, Westwood was my first big client.
I don't do very many breaks, right? So
yes. And we were finishing 1-2 in the mornings.
We were.
Big days.
Well, these days we do even more days. We finish a little bit earlier than that these days. Yeah. But that was the thing for me. I think that I didn't want to do these 9-to-5 conferences where I gave you 3 things and I went home. I really genuinely want to help people, and I think that sometimes to do that, I need as much time as I can to share with you the things that I really believe will help you along the way. What are some of the things that you took from that helped you? Because you said you landed some clients after it.
Yeah, I think day one, the mindset day was just transformational. Yeah. Like it's an awesome process that you take everyone through. The breakthrough and everything. So I think that was big for me. Yeah. Being at the start of the journey. Yeah. I think sales. was the most important thing. There was some of the key engage and roll convert. All of that. I still remember remember.
You
right?
remember it. Good
yes,
job.
that's
like
it.
that,
I got a very good
That's well
memory.
done.
So, it was like, okay, well, I need to implement this.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest challenge for a lot of people, why you have ongoing coaching masterminds, because most people don't implement.
Yeah.
I see. And I was like, that's it. I'm coming here, I'm implementing, and then I got some big clients because I did that. So thanks, for that journey, starting me on, and then just personal development's just come in, big from there. You get a taste and then you're going. So let's talk empire building a little bit now, a bit more. So people were like, Aaron, okay, you're talking multiple businesses, multiple income streams. Like, what are some key things that we need to be thinking about that, allow us to create a successful, and sustainable empire?
I think first you have to set your kind of GPS, your mind to what you want. I think that if you said to a business owner, do you want multiple income streams? Do you want multiple businesses? And the easy answer is yes, but that's a decision. But decisions are dopamine, right? If we make a decision, our brain feels good, right? Like if we say, hey, we're going to go to Fiji on the weekend, we both go, fuck, that sounds amazing, let's go. But the commitment is actually getting the thing done. So if you make a decision and then a commitment to say, I am going to build multiple businesses and I am going to build multiple income streams. Why that commitment is important is this. Most business owners, one of the biggest challenges that they've got is themselves, right? They're control freaks, right? Because think about how most businesses are formed. Here's what happens. I work for somebody else, I get a skill, and I'm pretty good at it. Then eventually I decide, fuck it, I can do this myself. So I go and I start my own thing. So maybe I'm a tradie, I'm a plumber, I work for somebody else, and I go, I can be a plumber myself. So I have my own plumbing business. Then after a few years, I'm still running my own thing, and I kind of hit this ceiling. But the problem is because you know the business so well, you know the job, you know the product you're selling really well, or the service you're doing really well, the challenge you've got is letting go. Because you have to bring people on that are, it's just not as good as you. That's a fact, right? It's very hard to find people that are better than you at the skill that you do. Managing the business and sales and marketing, you can definitely, because you are skilled in something in what you do, we get stuck at this roadblock of, but I can't find somebody, to be able to replace me or be better than me. So the reason I say the first decision is that you want to build an empire, because if you make that decision, if you say, I want to build an empire, then there's going to be some things that have to change. So first of all, you can't be in your business 24/7. You can't be the person that sells everything. You can't be the person that delivers on everything. You have to bring people in that can actually run that business. And guess what? Those people might not do the job that you can do. But if they can do close to the job that you can do, what it does is it frees up your time to go out there and do other things. I'll give you a simple math equation. If you're 100% good at what you do, and you can bring somebody in to run that business or be a part of your business and deliver it at 80% as good as what you are, sure, it's 20% less than what you were able to do, maybe in quality, maybe in service, maybe in results. But if you give that job to somebody else and they deliver at 80%, you get 100% of your time back. So you've gone from having 100% of your time, right, for you to be able to deliver in your business, to having 180% of time because you've got all of your time plus the 80% of somebody else that can do it. But the problem is that most people, they can't reconcile with that they need to step away, and then they're control freaks, right? So if something breaks down or if something goes wrong, it's, oh, fuck, I'll get back into I'm going to do it now. So the challenge of most businesses, and I'm talking to the small and medium-sized businesses to begin with, because you've got to start small and medium to become big. That's how it works. The challenge we have is letting go and saying, I want to do this, I want to create this. So for me, in every one of my businesses, at any one given point, I'm sure there's a challenge with a team member. There's a challenge with a customer. And I might be able to go and deal with that better than most other people in my companies. But if I keep taking that approach, I can never have multiple businesses and multiple income streams. Richard Branson, who was sitting, right here in this office only a couple of months ago with me, he has 400 companies, lives on an island, spends 6 months of his life there every year, and has a life of his design. Why? Because he understood that he can't be involved in every meeting. He can't be involved in every decision. He can't be the person that's solving every challenge. So I think what's really important, before we get into strategy on like, okay, Aaron, what's the strategy for this? You have to just decide you want to be an empire builder, and you have to cross that line of permission that says, I'm going to give myself permission to go out there and do this, but I'm also going to give myself permission to fail. Because if, let's say, for example, you need to replace yourself as a manager, I need to hire a new GM, I need to hire, okay, that GM might start with you and not be as good as you. Or they might start with you and 3 months later quit. Now, if you go, oh, fuck, it's not working anymore, I want to do it myself, Then you jump back in the saddle, run your business again. A year later, you wake up and you go, I'm in the same spot I was. So, we know we need to be able to replace you in that business. We need to move you out of the job, which is doing it all yourself, to being a part of the process. That kind of stage 2 is what I talk about. You know that from Empire. To a stage 3, the empire stage, where you're not needed in the business at all. So number 1, you have to decide you want to be an empire builder and be willing to go through the shit to get there. Because most things in life, there is a shitty bit before there's a good bit, right? You want to join the gym, you want to lose weight. No one goes to the gym for the first time and goes, wow. The next day they wake up and their body's hurting so much they go, I should have a day off. This is terrible, right? Or, so if you want to lose weight, there's generally a shitty bit before a better bit, right? You generally don't love yourself in the mirror till you do. You want to get better in a relationship. You're going to have some hard truths with your partner before you can get to the better part. You want to be able to be great in your own business life. You're going to have to go through some crap before you get there. So I think for me, I can give you 1,000 pieces of strategy. You know that, from an Empire Mastery or all the masterminds that we do. But I think if you just decide and commit to where you want to go, then take MAIA, right? Massive and immediate action, which is what I teach. Then on the journey, you're going to get there. You're going to get to where you want to go. The strategy comes second. The commitment to having an empire mindset is what comes first, and knowing that it's just going to be a bit shit before it becomes a bit good. And a lot of people forget that, when they what's the number one thing that people leave their job for to start a business? Because they want to get what? They want to get freedom. What's the first thing that goes when you start a business? It's freedom, right? So most people, they don't like that. And then you're generally poorer before you're richer, right? I left a very high paying job. I had a convertible. I was living in a penthouse. I was making great money. And I left all of that, sold my car, had to borrow my mum's Daihatsu Terios, right? Red with ladybird covers. Got into debt. Had to borrow money from my girlfriend living at her apartment in Dandenong. So I went from being a baller, making a ton of money driving a sports car, to going in but I knew I wanted to go out there and become successful. Then, do you know how long it took me to turn over my first $1 million? It took me 7.5 years to turn over my first million. Not profit, turnover. Now, absolutely, we can do business. We can do $1 million in a day in some of our companies these days. We can do millions of dollars in profit in a month. But that's the end of the journey, or where I am now anyway in my journey, which is 15, 16, 17 years later. But at the beginning, it took me 7 years. And that's borrowing money. That's going into debt. That's feeling like I was shit. I wasn't getting anywhere. Because one of the things I did wrong in the beginning is I connected my self-worth to my net worth. So when I didn't have any money, I felt like shit. Now, later on in my life, I worked out you can't connect your self-worth to your net worth, because life becomes this roller coaster. You got money, you feel better. You don't have any money, you feel like shit. So I had to detach my self-worth from my net worth and know that if I was going to get somewhere, I just had to be prepared to go through the shitty bit. So if you divorce yourself from the idea of success having to happen tomorrow, and if you just commit to saying you want to be able to build multiple businesses, and inside of those businesses, multiple income streams, then eventually, not on your time frame, but eventually you'll become successful, monetarily successful, because I don't think success is just about money. I think success is happy, healthy, and wealthy. But you'll be monetarily successful if you're prepared to go through the shitty bit. If you commit to what that means, you will find solutions and you'll learn from people like me to be able to go out there and create what you want.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. So powerful, and completely agree with what you're saying. Let's go to the next phase, I guess. So after the empire, I know you're talking a lot about buying businesses now. You do this with Deal Mastery. And I think this is important for people to understand maybe the difference between buying and starting, as well as maybe talk a little bit about some of the red flags, because I'm analyzing a lot of deals now, and there's a lot of red flags that come up. And it's like, I don't just want to I don't just want to buy a business if there's going to be a lot of problems that can happen later down the track. So do you want to maybe tell about the differences and maybe some things to watch out for to make sure that it's going to be successful?
Makes sense, yeah. So to give you context, there's 3 major ways to build an empire, right? You can start a business, you can buy a business, or you can buy into a business. So equity, right? Now, when we're talking about private equity, like me owning part of a private company, not stocks and shares, right? So start, buy, or buy into. In every one of those 3 avenues, you can do it with money and without money. So there's kind of 2 ways per of those 3 avenues. So That's what I teach and that's what I do. So some things I've started with money that's cost me money. Some things I've started without money. Some business I've bought outright with money. Some I'll be able to negotiate to buy with little to no money down, which is the deal mastery training that you're talking about. Then there's the equity piece. So sometimes I'll buy businesses, I'll buy parts of businesses with money. So for example, the Melbourne United NBL deal, buying a 10% share of that, that's a $4 million cash deal, right? But then there's other times where you can buy into businesses without having to use your own money, but using a value and some other things you can use instead of that. So that's a three major parts. What you're talking about is buying a business. So buying a business, firstly, you got to think about it like this. Like any product, where is there a market for it? So right now, there are more people far more people that will be willing to sell their business than people that are looking to buy. Right? It is absolutely a buyer's market. So to give you a statistic, around 65% of businesses in Australia, right, are owned by people over the age of 65. That means we're heading into what's called a wealth tsunami because those 65 and 70-year-olds need to sell that company. Why do they have to sell the company? Because the children of those 60 and 70-year-olds no longer want to take over mum and dad's business. So mum and dad used to be a farmer, or used to be a chemist, or used to be a banker, or used to be a hairdresser, or used to be they don't want to do that anymore. So those businesses have to sell so they can realize their gain as those people start to pass money down or even pass away. They have to sell. So we're hitting these massive liquidity events that are happening, and the estimation is something like $100 trillion has to change hands between boomers and millennials and those generations, has got to change hands over the next 10 years. So those businesses have to sell. There's 2.8 million businesses alone in Australia. 2.8 million businesses alone in Australia. Now, you ask people if they want to buy a business. You've been there when I've asked this question, and almost no one puts their hand up because they think you need to have a ton of money to do it. When you realize that the big boys, the big girls in town, they use the methodologies of buying things with little to no money down, you realize that actually the world isn't based on how much money you have equals the success you have. When Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. People think, oh yeah, he's rich. Here you go, he's $44 billion cash. He doesn't have $44 billion cash in his bank account. He used deal mastery deals. He leveraged against his Tesla shares. He put a little bit of cash in. He got some investors. He put the deal together. When Nick and Anthony sold Afterpay to Square, right, or Block as it is now, in that $39 billion deal, it was not $39 billion cash. There's some cash and there's some script, right, or stock. So the higher you go in town, you realize that most of these deals are not cash deals. So what I did is I realized really early on that most people that are uneducated around this, right, they buy a business by giving somebody cash. But the big businesses in town rarely do that. So I went, hang on, what is going on here? And I started to go deep on trying to work this out. So you can buy a business for little to no money down. Absolutely. And I know it sounds like, do I get steak knives? I know it. It sounds almost like bullshit, right? But if you work it out enough, there's ways that you can do it. And I teach that. So when it comes to these deals, one of the things that I'm really big on is that if you start a company, firstly, it's a gamble. You know if it's going to work out. There's initial outlay. You've got, you don't know. It's a bit of a guess and test. If you buy a company, right? If you buy a company, you've got a team, you've got supplies, you've got track record, and if you want to raise capital, you want to go to the bank. Getting the bank to fund you to, even if you have to use some capital to buy into a business, right? Getting the bank's money to buy a business is way easier than getting the bank's money to start a company. Right? Because there's a proven track record. So things that I look for, back to the deals that you're looking at, right? So I genuinely tell people to look at what's called a going concern. Now, a going concern means a business makes money. It sounds a bit redundant. It sounds like it's not making money, I know, but a going concern means it's making money. So you've got loss-making businesses, right? Businesses that not making any money. You've got going concern, means they're actually making some money, and you've got businesses that are closing down. So I generally tell people to start with businesses that are going concern, because if you can find a business that's making profit and you can put a deal together. Now, people think the deal is just about, paying off using vendor financing or something like that. It's way more than that. Because what if the amount that they're asking for is too much? Even if you can pay something, it's like if you buy a house for $3 million on mortgage with the bank, right? The bank might give you the $3 million mortgage, but what happens if the house is only worth 2.5? So you might be overpaying. So the whole point of deal mastery is I talk about is what trying to find out what the business is worth, then finding different ways to be able to lower that price down to a reasonable figure, then finding different ways to be able to not have to put as much money up front. Now, the reason I don't want to put as much money up front, and even if you've got it, you see, money can be a trap. If you've got money, sometimes you kind of, oh, fuck it, I've got money in the bank account, mate. It's just, they're only asking for a couple $100,000 or whatever. But I want to use every dollar I have not to acquire a company. I want to use my money to spend on what I call MASS, M-A-S-S, marketing and branding, advice and mentors, staff and scaling, M-A-S-S. MASS, when I spend money on MASS, it generates mass to me. So I want to acquire a company for little to no money down. I want to then spend whatever money I have on mass to grow and scale the company. So for me, I look for businesses that are obviously making money. That's the goal. And people have this idea that the only time you want to sell a business is when it's doing shit. And it's completely wrong, right? A lot of businesses that are doing well would sell their company. Now, here's the other thing for you. It's not about looking on for sale websites for businesses. In fact, most of the transactions that my students do, and we've done, what I know of, my students have done 200 transactions in Australia in the last 12 months alone. That's just what I'm aware of with little to no money down. I'm talking about businesses worth 20, 30, 40, $50 million for little to no money down, all the way down to businesses worth $10,000, $20,000, right? And everything in between. So these people are all buying businesses that are making money, that are profitable. So when my focus, I say to people, is to find businesses that are making profit. You can directly approach businesses as well, because most business owners, given the right deal, would probably sell their business. So there is this 2.8 million businesses in Australia. There's nowhere near the amount of people that are interested in buying, and there's nowhere near the amount of people that have been trained in what I'm teaching. But what have we seen? We're seeing a rise in private equity. What is private equity? Private equity is looking at ways to invest yourself and be actively involved. Now, even the ASX recently talked about this in the Fin Review. They issue a warning about people buying stocks and investing in stocks, because you know what you're actually seeing? You're seeing less people invest in stocks these days and more people directly investing themselves with other people and businesses. Because 20, 30 years ago, even the word private equity and venture capital, people think you've got to be some kind of mogul to do it. You don't have to be. You can be 18 years old and go, I want to go be a private equity person. You can go give $500 to your buddy who's starting a software company, and guess what? You're in private equity. There's no rule that says you have to be worth $140 million to go out there and start a net. You can do it, but you get to do it in your own terms, your own way, and start to be in control, which is what I think really is going on. People want to be more in control of their money, their finances, and their destiny a lot more than what they've been sold. What were they sold when they were growing up? The Australian dream was to buy a house, pay the mortgage off over 35 years in a job you hate, and have 2.5 kids. But you know who made all of the advertising campaigns for the Great Australian Dream to buy a house? The banks. Because when you buy a house, by the time you paid it off, you paid back 3 times what the initial price was. Whereas the Great Australian Dream, I think, is changing for a lot of people. They want choice. They want some more freedom, and they want to have the ability to be able to really carve out the life they want to have, and not just go down the same path as maybe their parents have gone before. So I think buying businesses is a great opportunity, or about buying into businesses. And what I really look for are businesses that are going concerns, people that are open to kind of making a deal. And here's the last thing I'll leave you on this, is that when you put these deals together, and this is important, is the deals that I put together and my students put together, they are not ripping off the owner. In fact, the way that we put together the deal, most of the time, in fact, not even, maybe even all of the time, works out in the way better than hand the owner cash to buy their business, right? Sometimes the deal is even better than what they would get, what they'll end up with after all their taxes, by creating a different deal that might work for them, where they're able to put a deal together that works for the seller and also the buyer as well. So when you can create a real win-win, and when there's this massive market opportunity, I think this is where people are starting to wake up to the idea of really being in control of your own personal finances and going out there and building an empire for yourself.
Yeah, awesome, Aaron. That was just a lot of gold there for everybody, and thank you so much for your time today. I know you're a precious man with it, and I just want to thank you overall for what you've had with my journey, especially at the start, and you've delivered so much value today. I'm sure you're going to continue to help a lot of the entrepreneurs around Australia and globally, to really create their own empires and that. So, how can people find you and get to your events? And
sure. Well? They can. Instagram's a great way, right? Come and hit me up on Instagram, and we will always post about different events that we're doing as well. So. They can head to Instagram and find me, Aaron Sansoni there. Head to our website as well. But the best thing you can do is come along to an event, check it out, come along to one of our tours or something. We're always doing them around the country, and we do them right around Australia. Or if you're overseas, you can jump on. We do webinars all the time and just learn about this whole world and just expose yourself to what could be possible and see if this is the world you want to go down, where you get to live your life by design and not by default. And if that sounds interesting, or if having multiple businesses and multiple income streams sounds interesting, then there's a bit of a crazy fun world that we call empire building that, of course, you are a part of, and I'm really honored to be able to help people in whatever way I can to navigate what I wasn't really shown to do. I had to kind of work it out myself and save them time and save them money and hopefully give them a chance to live really, truly, really living their life on their own terms. And it's fun. Like it's a bunch of fun. I mean, to be able to, a couple of years ago, I was like, men's underwear shit. Let's go make a men's underwear brand. So we did. And now it's a great, huge success story with Gallantly Underwear. Or you said, Aaron, you got a nice jacket. This is Sansoni collection. I was like, let's do something in suiting. I want to do that. This morning I had a conversation with a buddy of mine that wants to open a restaurant. I'm like, yeah, let's open a restaurant. That'll be fun. I've always loved basketball. So I got to buy into a basketball team recently. That's what's fun. Really chasing your own dreams and going out there and surrounding yourself with amazing human beings and going out there and building a life you want to have by design. To me, even if you don't, Richard Branson said this to me. He said to me only a couple of months ago, sitting right here in my office. He said to me, Aaron, building an empire, you might not always make the most amount of money than somebody else spending their whole life, like a Mark Zuckerberg, whole life at Meta and Facebook, right? He said, you might not make the most amount of money of anybody, but you'll have the most amount of fun. And he's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Aaron. And all the best with keep building the empires and helping a lot of other people do the same.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on your 200 podcasts as well.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. If you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.